अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। अवतार मेहर baba ki jai. Welcome all to today's online Sahavas program organized by Avatar Meher Baba Hyderabad Center. अवतार मेहर बाबा हैदराबाद केंद्र द्वारा आयोजित आज के ऑनलाइन सहवास कार्यक्रम में आप सभी का स्वागत है। అవతార్ మెహర్ బాబా హైదరాబాద్ కేంద్రం వారు నిర్వహిస్తున్న నేటి ఆన్లైన్ సహవాస్ కార్యక్రమానికి అందరికీ స్వాగతం. ముందుగా నమో మెహర్ బాబా ప్రార్థనా గీతంతో ఈ కార్యక్రమం ప్రారంభమవుతుంది.
ఎవరాది మానవుడో ఎవరాది పురుషుడో ఎవరాది సద్గురుడో ఎవరు సర్వోన్నతుడో ఆ దివ్య ప్రియతముని ఆ ప్రేమ సుందరుని చరణ పద్మములకి చిరుకాంక అంకితం.
అవ్యయ మోక్షం వనుగ్రహింపుము
आज के कार्यक्रम का विवरण संक्षिप्त में we have Bhajans from 6 o'clock to 6:35 in Telugu and Hindi, and at 6:35 beloved Baba's niece and daughter of Adi Junior, Mrs.Shireen Bonner, will be sharing us her beautiful Baba anecdotes from childhood. And at 7:15 the gist of her talk will be there in Telugu and Hindi. And at 7:30 one Bhajan. 7:35 to 7:45 beloved Baba's film show 1958 Myrtle Beach Sahavas Part 2. And from 7:45 onwards Naam, Dhun, Silence, Prayers and Arti. ఈ రోజు కార్యక్రమం వివరాలు సంక్షిప్తంగా 6:35 వరకు ఈ భజనల కార్యక్రమం ఉంటుంది. 6:35 నుండి బెలవెట్ బాబా యొక్క నీస్ అలాగే ఆదికే ఇరానీ యొక్క ఆది జూనియర్ యొక్క కుమార్తె మిసెస్ షిరీన్ బోనర్, ఆమె న్యూ మెక్సికో యునైటెడ్ స్టేట్స్ నుండి మనతో పాటు ఈ సహవాసంలో పాల్గొబోతున్నారు. ఆమె యొక్క ప్రసంగం అలాగే ఆ ప్రసంగం యొక్క తెలుగు మరియు హిందీ అనువాదాలు సంక్షిప్తంగా 7:15 నుండి ఉంటాయి. 7:30 భజన్, 7:35 నుండి 7:45 వరకు కూడా 1958లో బాబా మెటల్ బీచ్ లో ఇచ్చిన సహవాస కార్యక్రమానికి సంబంధించిన ఫిలిం పార్ట్ 2 ఉంటుంది. 7:45 నుండి నామ్, ధున్, సైలెన్స్, ప్రేయర్స్ మరియు ఆర్తి. अब गुरुग्राम से नंदिनी माथुर जी एक हिंदी भजन सुनाएंगे.
अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय. दीनहीन में विनती करत हूँ, सुनो मेहर प्रभु राज. दीन दयाले तुम रखवारे, रखियो मेरी लाज. दो वरदान तुम्हारे गुण गाऊं, भजन करत रम जाऊं. भूलो भवताप सारा, दुख सुख में विसराऊं. मेहर प्रभु आओ, आओ रे आओ. मेहर प्रभु आओ, आओ रे आओ. प्रेमी जनों को दरस दिखाओ. मेहर प्रभु आओ, आओ रे आओ. हृदय कुंज में आओ बाबा, हृदय कुंज में आओ बाबा. आके फिर ना जाओ बाबा, प्रेम सुधा बरसाओ. मेहर प्रभु आओ, आओ रे आओ. बाबा मेरा सब तेरा है, बाबा मेरा सब तेरा है. अब नहीं कुछ भी मेरा है, अपना हमें बनाओ. मेहर प्रभु आओ, आओ रे आओ. प्रेमी जनों को दर रस दिखाओ, मेरे प्रभु आओ, आओ रे आओ। जाऊं कहाँ, जाऊं कहाँ, जाऊं कहाँ, तज चरण तुम्हारे, जाऊं कहाँ, जाऊं कहाँ, जाऊं कहाँ, तज चरण तुम्हारे, श्रवण नयन मन संग तुम्हारे, प्यारा लगे बिहवान, मेरे प्रभु आओ, आओ रे आओ। प्रेमी जनों को दरस दिखाओ, मेरे प्रभु आओ, मेरे प्रभु आओ, मेरे प्रभु आओ, आओ रे आओ। तार मेहर बाबा की जय।
జై బాబా నందినిజీ. కాకినాడ నుండి రవికుమార్ గారు ఇప్పుడు ఒక తెలుగు భజన్ పాడతారు.
अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। प्रभु ना मनसे नी निवासम, प्रभु ना मनसे नी निवासम, प्रभु ना मनसे नी निवासम, ఎటులా నిన్ను మరచేదెలా ప్రభు నా మనసే నీ నివాసం, ఎటులా నిన్ను మరచేదెలా ప్రభు నా మనసే నీ నివాసం. ప్రాకృతమైన భారము నీదే, నా కృతమును నే మరువను స్వామి, ప్రాకృతమైన భారము నీదే, నా కృతమును నే మరువను స్వామి. మరి జాగృతి చేసెదవేలో ఎటులా నిన్ను మరచేదెలా ప్రభు నా మనసే నీ నివాసం, ఎటులా నిన్ను మరచేదెలా ప్రభు నా మనసే నీ నివాసం. ఎన్నో జన్మల బంధము నీతో, తుది వరకు మది ఇది వీడనిది, ఎన్నో జన్మల బంధము నీతో, తుది వరకు మది ఇది వీడనిది. మరి జాగృతి చేసెదవేలో ఎటులా నిన్ను మరచేదెలా ప్రభు, నా మనసే నీ నివాసం. ఎటులా నిన్ను మరచేదెలా ప్రభు, నా మనసే నీ నివాసం. ధీం తారినాదృదిన ధీరనా, ధీం తారినాదృదిన ధీరనా, ధీం తధీం తధీం నాదృదిన ధీరనా, ధీం తధీం తధీం నాదృదిన ధీరనా, నది నదీం తధీం 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 ధీరనా, ధీరనా, నది నదీం తధీం 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 ధీరనా, ధీరనా. ధీం తారినాదృదిన ధీరనా, ఓ ధృతాని ధిరితాని ధీం తార ధీరనా, ఓ ధృతాని ధిరితాని ధీం తార ధీరనం, ఓ ధృతాని ధీం తని ధీం ధీరనం, తధీం 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 ధీరనం, తధీం 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 ధీరనం. తాగిడదగ ధూంకడి కడదగ తాద తద తధీం తారినాదృదిన ధీరనాం, ధీరనాం, ధీరనా. మేఘే 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 బాబా. ప్రేమామృతమును చవి చూపితివి, ప్రేమామృతమును చవి చూపితివి, మరచెదెలా విడచెదెలా మరచెదెలా మేఘే బాబా. ప్రేమామృతమును చవి చూపితివి, పొంగును ఎన్నడు మరచి విడువను, పొంగును ఎన్నడు మరచి విడువను, నీ కృప ఉన్నచో సాధ్యము బాబా, నీ కృప ఉన్నచో సాధ్యము బాబా. మెహరాబాద్న పవళించితివి, మెహరాబాద్న పవళించితివి, మాలో చేరి వెలుగొందితివి, నీలో చేర్చి దయజూడుమయ్యా ప్రేమిక హృదయ. మేఘరు బాబా మరచెదెలా విడచెదెలా తలచేదేలా బాబా अवतार मेघेर बाबा की जय।
जय बाबा रविकुमार गारू। मुंबई से श्यामला पोतनीस एक हिंदी भजन गाएंगे।
अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। गुण निधि चैतन्य मूर्ति भक्त हृदय शुभ कामना। गुण निधि चैतन्य मूर्ति भक्त हृदय शुभ कामना। सुमिरो सुजन निशिवास रे मधु मधुर में हर है मना। सुमिरो 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 सुमिरो। प्रेम रूपा शांति रूपा प्रेम रूपा शांति रूपा सकल जन भय भंजना। प्रेम रूपा शांति रूपा सकल जन भय भंजना। ऋषि मुनि अरु देव देवा ऋषि मुनि अरु देव देवा गुणी जना करी वंदना। गुणी जना करी वंदना। सुमिरो सुजन निशिवास रे मधु मधुर में हर है मना। सुमिरो सुमिरो। शुभ्रवसना दिव्य तेजा स्वरूप सुंदर आनना। शुभ्रवसना दिव्य तेजा स्वरूप सुंदर आनना। लखी न जा महिमा किसी से लखी न जा महिमा किसी से। थकित पंडित मुनि जना थकित पंडित मुनि जना। सुमिरो सुजन निशिवास रे मधु मधुर में हर है मना। सुमिरो सुमिरो। पतित पावन जगत जीवन पतित पावन जगत जीवन त्रिविधता पहि नाशना। पतित पावन जगत जीवन त्रिविधता पहि नाशना। भक्त जन उतरेयु भवनद भक्त जन उतरेयु भवनद। करीप्त में हर गर्जना करीत में हर गर्जना। सुमिरो सुजन सुजन निशिवास रे मधु मधुर में हर हे मना सुमीरो सुमीरो स्फूर्ति दाता स्फूर्ति दे गाए तेरे यश गायना स्फूर्ति दाता स्फूर्ति दे गाए तेरे यश गायना मधुसूदन चाहे वसोनित मधुसूदन चाहे वसोनित हृदय सिंहासना नित हृदय सिंहासना सुमीरो सुजन निशिवास रे मधु मधुर में हर हे मना सुमीरो 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 सुमीरो। अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय।
జై బాబా శ్యామలాజీ. నరసన్నపేట నుండి తాతబాబు గారు ఇప్పుడు ఒక తెలుగు భజన పాడతారు.
अवतार मेहर बाबा की छे। प्रेमवु नीवु प्रियुडवु नीवु प्रेमवु नीवु प्रियुडवु नीवु प्रेमनु कोरे सखुडवु नीवु प्रेमनु कोरे सखुडवु नीवु प्रेमवु नीवु కలిమానవులకు కమ్మని వరమై మనసులు దోచే మధురనుభవమై కలిమానవులకు కమ్మని వరమై మనసులు దోచే మధురనుభవమై ఎద ఎద నిలిచి రమ్మని పిలిచే బాబా బాబా ఎద ఎద నిలిచి రమ్మని పిలిచే పిలుపువు నీవే పలుకవు నీవు పిలుపువు నీవే పలుకవు నీవు ప్రేమవు నీవు చిరునగవులతో చింతలు బాపి కనుచూపులతో ఓదార్చేవు చిరునగవులతో చింతలు బాపి కనుచూపులతో ఓదార్చేవు కనిపించకనే కరుణించేవు బాబా బాబా కనిపించకనే కరుణించేవు కన్నులలోనే కదలాడేవు కన్నులలోనే కదలాడేవు ప్రేమవు నీవు అందాలన్నీ అమరిన రూపం, ఆనందాలకు నెలవగు రూపం. అందాలన్నీ అలరిన రూపం, ఆనందాలకు నెలవగు రూపం. అందించేవు ఆరాచుడవు బాబా బాబా, అందించేవు ఆరాచుడవు, అవతారుడవు సర్వోన్నతుడవు, అవతారుడవు సర్వోన్నతుడవు. ప్రేమవు నీవు, నీ స్మరణముతో తనువులు మరచే తమకములోనే వసించేము. నీ స్మరణముతో తనువులు మరచే తమకములోనే వసించేము. మెహర్ శ్రీ అని మెహరు మెహరని బాబా బాబా, మెహర్ శ్రీ అని మెహరు మెహరని తల్లడిల్లాము తరుణమిదే అని, తల్లడిల్లాము తరుణమిదే అని. ప్రేమవు నీవు, ప్రియుడవు నీవు, ప్రేమవు నీవు, ప్రియుడవు నీవు, ప్రేమను కోరే సఖుడవు నీవు, ప్రేమను కోరే సఖుడవు నీవు. ప్రేమవు నీవు. अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय.
జై బాబా తాతబాబు గారు. మెహర్ నేలి ఫ్రమ్ హైదరాబాద్ విల్ సింగ్ ఏ హిందీ భజన్.
अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय. जप ले मेहर का नाम, जप ले मेहर का नाम, तेरे बिगड़े बनेंगे काम, तेरे बिगड़े बनेंगे काम, जप ले मेरे काम, तेरे बिगड़े बनेंगे काम, जप ले मेरे काम. भीड़ भरी जीवन धारा, काहे फिरता मारा मारा, जप ले मेरे का मंदिर ना भगवान बिना रे, संगीत ना सुरताल बिना रे, मंदिर ना भगवान बिना रे, संगीत ना सुरताल बिना रे, गीत नहीं कोई भाव बिना रे, गीत नहीं कोई भाव बिना रे, श्रद्धा से नाम रे, जप ले मेरे का तेरे बिगड़े बनेंगे काम, जप ले मेरे अपनी राह जाओ बढ़ते, औरों के पथ नाही रोके, अपनी राह जाओ बढ़ते, औरों के पथ नाही रोके, मधुसूदन चल हंसते गाते, मधुसूदन चल हंसते गाते, पाओगे आराम रे, जप ले मेरे का तेरे बिगड़े बनेंगे काम, तेरे बिगड़े बनेंगे काम, जप ले मेरे का जप ले मेरे का जप ले मेरे का। अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय।
Jai Baba Nidhi. Now talk by Mrs. Shireen Bonner. సోదరులు కళ్యాణ్ మెహర్ ఆమె యొక్క పరిచయాన్ని అలాగే ఆమె ఇంగ్లీష్ ప్రసంగాన్ని తెలుగు మరియు హిందీ భాషల్లోకి అనువదిస్తారు. ఓవర్ టు యూ బ్రదర్ కళ్యాణ్ మెహర్.
अवतार ఆది షరియార్ ఇరానీ ప్రీతం బాబా సోదరులుగా మనందరికీ తెలుసు. అయితే వీరి సంతానం దారా ఇరానీ మరియు షిరీన్ బోనర్ వీరు కూడా మనకి పరిచయమే. గత మే మాసంలో జరిగిన ఆన్లైన్ సహవాస్ లో దారా మరియు షిరీన్ మనతో పాల్గొన్నారు. షిరీన్ బోనర్ లండన్ లో పుట్టారు, అక్కడే పెరిగి పెద్దయ్యారు. అయితే 3 సందర్భాల్లో బాబా యొక్క దర్శన భాగ్యాన్ని పొందినవారు. 1958లో 3 మాసాల శిశువుగా బాబా బడిలో ఉన్నారు. ఆ తర్వాత 1964 సంవత్సరంలో 7 సంవత్సరాల చిన్నారిగా బాబా చేతుల ద్వారా జొరాస్ట్రియన్ సాంప్రదాయం ప్రకారంగా నవజోత్ అనే ఆ సాంప్రదాయం జరగడం, అలాగే ఒక చిన్నారిగా ఏ రకంగా అయితే ఏ విధంగా బాబాని కలవడమో, బాబాని ఎన్ని ప్రశ్నలు అడిగారో ఇవన్నీ కూడా చాలా వివరంగా చెప్పడం జరిగింది. 3వ సందర్భంలో 1968 సంవత్సరంలో అమృత్ మరియు దారా వారి వివాహ సందర్భంగా ఆఖరిసారిగా బాబా యొక్క దర్శనం చేసుకోవడం జరిగింది. దానిలో భాగంగా ఎన్నో ఘటనలు జరిగాయి. వారి అనుభవాల్ని, ఆ వివరాల్ని ఈ రోజు మనతో పంచుకుంటారు. जय बाबा। आदि शरियार ईरानी बाबा के भाई हैं। हम सब सुपरिचित हैं इस नाम से। इनकी संतान दारा और शिरीन बोनर, इनसे भी हम सुपरिचित हैं। 4 महीने पहले मई मास में जो ऑनलाइन सहवास हुआ था, उस सहवास में शिरीन ने हमें उनके बचपन की यादें, इस समय जो आप वीडियो में देख रहे हैं, शायद 1968 का क्लिप आप देख रहे होंगे। तो 1964 में जब इन्होंने मिला, इसका विवरण इन्होंने दिया था। जब मई मास में जब हमसे इनसे पहली बार मुलाकात हुई, आज 1968 जब तीसरी बार और बाबा के साथ में जो आखिरी इनका सौभाग्य रहा बाबा के दर्शन का, इसका विवरण आज सुनाएंगी। अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। Hearty welcome, Shireen and Jay. It's a great pleasure to have you on the Sahavas once again. This time, delighted to hear the continued stories of your meeting with Baba. Over to you for the next 40 minutes. Jai Baba.
Thank you. Jai Baba, thank you very much for your introduction, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak to your group. It's wonderful to be with you, and thank you also for showing the film. You know, it brings back the happiest memories of my life. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful to see it again. I was 7 there, as I think you had said, but I had, yes, that's with my son, who I was very frightened of initially, but as I had spoken in my earlier stories, Baba wanted me to become friends with Mastan, and so he said, you know, give Mastan some, I think it was raw milk, and he'll become your friend. And so Mastan and I did become great friends. So thank you all very much again for inviting me, and it's wonderful to have this chance to remember and to share stories about my time with beloved Baba. So I did in my the first time did talk about the visit to Baba in 1968, as you just said, and that was for the occasion of my Naujut, ostensibly, but of course to see beloved Baba. So then we paid another trip to India, and that was in 1968-69. And as you all know, that was the time of Dara and Amrit's wedding, and also we, of course, had no idea, but we saw Baba for the last time, and only weeks, in fact, after we returned to England, did Baba drop his body, which was a huge, huge shock, even though we all knew how frail he was. So I just will quickly touch on the interim.
Seems like there's a delay, though.
Yeah, there's a delay, but that's okay, I guess. A delay in the my speaking and the image, but we won't worry about that. So in the interim period, when we left India, in 1964, I think it was, and then we're waiting to go back to see Baba again. Of course, you know, for me, for all of us, I couldn't wait to go back. I wanted to see Baba. I wanted to know why we weren't going back to see Baba. I mean, I was a child. So my parents told me, you know, in time we'll go. And of course, the occasion then arose of Dara and Amrit's wedding, and that was so exciting. There are a couple of stories that I could share about some wonderful things that happened, very much Baba, you know, Baba having his hand in it before we returned to India, but I think I'll save those to the end so that there's time. But there is a story that I like to share about the school that I went to, which really Baba arranged, which was the same school as Kitty Davy. He seemed to he wanted me to go to that school. So during the time away, you know, life went on as normal. I wrote to Baba a lot. I was, you know, very happy to write to him, and he would write back. I mean, who actually put pen to paper, I don't know, but in my mind, Baba was writing back to me. And I used to write to him and tell him about my school, my friends, our dog, and then I would cover the page with hearts and kisses. And I remember one time Mayor Auntie saying, "Shireen, not so many hearts and kisses. Baba can't read what you've written." And it was sort of a family joke with my Aunt Money later on, because I have truly terrible handwriting. Nobody can read what I write. And, maybe it started then with all the hearts and kisses. So we had that correspondence and the ability to be in touch with Baba. And he would send telegrams. And I know, of course, he did this with everyone. And we had a dog at that point. That's another story, who we love very much. And lucky dog. His name was Chan. Baba would mention him in every single telegram. Chan would be mentioned too. And as I say, there is a story I could share about my schooling, but the time built up and it became apparent, I understood as an 11-year-old that Dara was going to get married, my brother Dara. And I was just so excited. I mean, I was just, from a child's point of view, I was so excited to think that I would have a sister. And also, I had wanted a baby brother or sister, and I had asked Baba about that when I was 7, when we were there. And I asked him if that was possible, and Baba said, no. No, you won't have I think he said, "You're enough for your mother," or something like that, And so I knew that with Dara and Amrit's marriage that there would be children, and I couldn't wait for that. And of course, my nephews, Mewan and Jamshed. So it was a very exciting time for me to know that there was going to be a wedding, and also that we were going back to see Baba. So it was, in many ways, it was very similar to my first visit. Dad once again told me not to leap on Baba, not to hug him, to be gentle. And he also explained that Baba was ill. I mean, it was known to us that Baba was ill and frail. And my, Dad said, "You really have to be careful this time. You must be aware of this." So we, of course, went to India with the same excitement, I suppose extra excitement because of the wedding. And I think that Baba was in his bedroom rather than Mundley Hall. I'm fairly certain that he was in his bedroom, which was different. When I was 7, he was in Mundley Hall. So the fact that he was in his bedroom, of course, did suggest that he wasn't as well. And it was exactly the same thing as before. We had all queued up with garlands to greet Baba. My dad was whispering to me, don't leap on him. Dara was there, my mum, my grandmother, I think. And as soon as I walked in, Baba once again held out her arms to me, and I ran into them. So I didn't listen to my father for the second time. I couldn't help it. I gave Baba, such a hug, and he gave me such a hug. And it was so sweet. And as though no time had passed, it was just wonderful to be back with him again. There was a real air of excitement because of the wedding. And also, I was aware, I was 11, of a concern about Baba's health. But he made such an effort. And of course, I was a child. I didn't fully grasp what was happening. But he was so sweet and loving and never indicated that there was anything wrong. So for me personally, it just was a continuation of before, my relationship with Baba. But most of the visits to Baba did take place in his bedroom, because he would be lying down on his bed or in his chair. And I really liked that because I loved his bedroom. It was all pink. I was a little girl. I thought his bedroom was quite wonderful. So, I have all those memories of seeing him there, but yes, also at Mundley Hall. So, of course, the focus of the visit was the wedding. We weren't there for as long as before, nowhere near as long. I think we were only in India for 3 weeks. One of the things that had come up, and this relates to the school that I had just started that term, the headmistress was very adamant. My dad wrote to her and said, "Look, we're going for a family wedding. Could Shireen take off more time from her Christmas holiday?" And this lady wrote and said, "Absolutely not. We're very strict about this kind of thing. You can't take more time." And I only learned later that in the discussions with Baba and the Mundley about the wedding, at some point, I think my mum had requested and said, could the wedding instead be in the summer of 1969? And Baba was very, very firm. No, it has to be at this time in the winter of 68, 69. And of course, he knew he wouldn't be in the body next summer. So our trip was curtailed because of my school, basically. So a lot happened in those 3 weeks. So for me, one of the things that I had remembered from my last visit, because of course you all know Baba loved entertainment, and when I was 7, I had nothing. All I could do was sing a hymn from my school. I sang All Things Bright and Beautiful. I think I mentioned that, and it was not a good rendition. I was very embarrassed. So this time, I thought to myself, I need something to entertain Baba, and without telling my parents, I had a plan. And my plan was to tell Baba some jokes. And I still remember to this day, our dad's face when he heard me rattling off these jokes. So just quickly, there was a comedian in England at the time called Dave Allen. He was Irish. And he had a program, and he was very funny, very debonair, very anti-religious. So a lot of his jokes would be about the Catholic Church, about the Archbishop of Canterbury, about the Pope. I mean, they were, I suppose you could say slightly risque jokes in that sense. And I remember Dad's face when I started telling Baba. He was like, he had no idea. And he wondered what Baba would think of them. And what was so wonderful was that Baba loved these jokes. I told him 3 Dave Allen jokes. And Baba laughed and laughed and laughed. And you can imagine how good that made me feel. I just felt like I had something to offer Baba. And he was so sweet, because every time I see him, practically, he'd say, tell me another joke. And it was the same joke over and over again. And that just made me so happy, especially in light of something else that happened on that trip. But just to let you all know, it's amazing how Baba works. So, and of course, later, my dad said to me, what on earth were you thinking telling Baba jokes like that? Because one was about God and the devil, one was about a nun. I can't remember the other one. But anyway, it worked. Baba was happy. But I always wanted to write to Dave Allen and let him know that, Mayor Baba loved his jokes. And the absolute irony is that Dave Allen was excommunicated from the Catholic Church for his jokes. He got into so much trouble. And again, at that point, I wanted to say, don't worry about that. The avatar of the age loved your jokes. So Baba was so sweet. He wasn't well. I knew it. For me, seeing Baba, the experience was different. When I was 7, I think I mentioned that I was so excited. Baba was, of course, God in human form. I knew that, but I also thought of him as this magical figure almost. It was just almost unthinking. When I saw him when I was 11, I was more aware of the fact that this is God in human form, and he's my uncle. And I was very, I was more diffident, I think, and also I was at an awkward age. I mean, 11. But I was really conscious of the fact that this is Baba, this is God. But as always, he just made me feel at my ease. He was so sweet. He was so loving. He wasn't serious. He was playful and loving, just as he'd been before. So, of course, as before, my mum and I were staying with my grandparents, my maternal grandparents. Dara was staying with Vilu and Sorush, and our dad was staying at Merazad with Baba. And I can remember one time feeling rather envious of Dad, and we'd gone to visit Baba, and I actually said to Baba, Baba, why can't I stay with you? Could I stay with you, please, at Merazad? And Baba looked at me very sweetly and said, next time. And so I was happy. But of course, there wasn't a next time. But in that visit too, my mum had asked Baba if when I got married, if the wedding could be at Marisad, and Baba had said yes. I think my mum had asked Mani to make that request. So, in the background, in a way, not in the background, it was the foreground, but in the background for me, the wedding preparations were going on, which were very, very exciting. And I was excited about that. But also I just wanted to see Baba and be with Baba as much as possible. Another thing that happened that was a counterpoint to my successful joke telling was that when I was young, I think when I was 8, my mum had heard that Mera Auntie loved ballet. So she thought that I should take ballet lessons. And this was, I was not cut out for ballet. I mean, really, I was I wasn't a sort of dainty little child. So I took these lessons, and I was so bad at them that the teacher actually said to my mum, I think Shireen should stop. But my mum felt very strongly that no, we should do this because Mera loved ballet. So I actually was made to take private lessons on a Saturday morning because I just was not very good at it. And but Mera Auntie was happy. She was happy, so that was enough, of course. And my mum had asked Margaret Cross, who was, of course, a family friend and a very well-known ballerina, about when I should start the lessons. So one of the entertainments that I was going to provide for Baba was a dance. And I don't know how that came about. I certainly didn't volunteer. And I was absolutely mortified because here my poor teacher had been trying to get some sense of a ballerina out of me, which was, impossible. And I had managed to learn this dance. And I think, again, my mum must have thought, well, Shireen has a dance, so she can dance for Baba. Poor Baba. So I was really, really very worried about this. I was embarrassed. I just thought, no, this is not going to be any good. And but I knew I had to do it. So the dance was called the Tarantella. And if any of you know it, it's a famous dance to a famous piece of music. And it basically involves this young girl, a sort of a country girl, peasant, on a hill or in a field somewhere. And I don't remember all of the details, but she's bitten by this poisonous spider. And of course, tarantulas aren't poisonous. But anyway,
Yeah, they are.
they are. Okay, she's bitten by this spider. And there's something to do with a romance with the man she loves. And she does this dance, this kind of frenzy of death dance with, a rose in her mouth, twirls around and then dies. And this is what I had to do for Baba. And again, I was an ungainly child. I was self-conscious. And this outfit that I had to wear was outrageous. It was, a little skirt and a little scarf, I remember, and I had my rose. Well, in those days, of course, everything I think was on cassette tape. And so we had to bring the music on a tape. And the day came when I was supposed to do the dance.
Actually, reel to reel.
Yeah, it was a reel to reel. Anyway, and originally I was going to do the dance in Mundley Hall, which, at least it's a larger space. I had plans of being far back in the corner so no one could see me. But on that day, Baba wasn't feeling well, and so he was in his room, and the dance was in his bedroom. So for those of you who've been to his bedroom, you know it's not very large, and I thought, oh no, I've got to do this dance now. I can't, I'm going to be a few inches from Baba. Everyone's going to actually see me do it. So we arrived, and there was a, big sort of excitement almost, you could say, about this dance, and all my aunties were there, and everyone was there, and I was just praying that Baba would do something to stop this. And then he did. The cassette or the tape recorder didn't work, and so the music didn't play. And I thought, oh, thank you, Baba. I can't possibly do the dance now. There's no music. So I was very happy, I'll just leave. And then Mera Auntie said, no, I'll clap the time. So not only did I have to do this incredibly ungainly dance in front of Baba, I didn't even have the music to cover anything up. And Mera Auntie was clapping. And I remember doing this dance, dancing around Baba's bed, just I knew how bad it was, how bad I looked. And the whole time, Baba was smiling and beaming, and he was clapping along, and I was, galumphing along. I could hear the ground shaking practically. It was just a very intense time for me. And when it was all over, Baba clapped and smiled and said I'd done a great job and gave me a big hug. So it was very, very sweet, but I was just very embarrassed. So my jokes were my sort of saving grace, because I felt I had some talent at telling jokes. So Amrit, we hadn't met Amrit because she was staying at Merazad, but I think she had been quite ill. She had a very bad cold or a fever. So the anticipation was really building up for me, all of us, but I wanted to meet my future sister-in-law. So I had that to think about. I was just so looking forward to that. But meanwhile, of course, seeing Baba as we were, as we had done all the time. And, in that short time, a few things happened with Baba that have had a lasting impact on me. One time I went into his room, and I think I mentioned that I used to ride Goher's bicycle when Baba was having his nap, and I was told not to disturb him. But I found what I thought was a secret entrance. It was just the back door or side door to his bedroom. So I would go and visit Baba. And, I think as many people say when talking about their time with Baba, I don't remember anyone else there. I don't remember anybody interpreting. I just was visiting Baba. And I used to sit on his bed. He'd be in the bed, and we would talk. I would tell him about school. This is the school that he had wanted me to go to, that I'd miraculously gained entrance to. We would play little games. Baba liked to play those little hand games. I think we continued with the handkerchief, making the hats out of the handkerchief. We were just playing and talking. And Baba had been very, jolly. And one visit, suddenly his face became serious. And he looked at me and he said, I'll never forget this. He said, Shireen, what do you think is the most important thing that you can do for me? And I was caught off guard, and I thought about it. I didn't answer immediately. I thought, well, there are two things, to love you, to obey you. This was in my mind. And I thought, to love you is easy, so I will say to obey you. And I said that. I said, Baba, to obey you. And he gave the most loving smile and shook his head. And I thought, this is what is, I didn't understand. As though he was saying, no, not to obey me. But he said, no, I want you to be happy. And even as a child at the age of 11, I was so touched and moved by this. It was so moving to me that he had said that to me, and that with these other two options, he said he wanted me to be happy. And I thanked him and gave him a hug. And of course, at that age, I thought Baba was, waving a magic wand so that he'd make it so that I was always happy, so that nothing went wrong in life. And of course, that's not what he was saying, but it was very, very touching. Another occasion, and this had been in my mind for the interim years that we hadn't been with Baba, from the 1964 trip to the current trip when we were with him for Darren Amrit's wedding. When I was 7, I asked Baba if I could climb Seclusion Hill, and Baba said no, absolutely not. He said, you're frightened of snakes. I mean, no, you're not going. Well, I had developed this absolute wish to climb Seclusion Hill. And when we were there for Darren Amrit's wedding, I didn't have the sense to just think to myself, oh, Baba told me no last time, I better not ask him again. But I did. I asked him again, and I think I knew that if I asked Mara, Auntie, and she asked Baba, he would say yes to Mara, Auntie. So I think I might have asked Mara, Auntie, and said, please, can I climb Seclusion Hill? And I pestered Baba. And, I feel bad that I did that, but he then said yes. So after Dara Numrat's wedding, I think it was after, all of us went up Seclusion Hill. There was there was a large gathering of people. I mean, Dara Numrat, our parents, many family members, I think perhaps Erich, different people. It was an entourage. So on that morning, and I don't know how this happened, somehow I was wearing the most inappropriate outfit for this. I was wearing a little dress and sandals. I wasn't wearing proper shoes. And off I went. I was really excited to be doing this. And I can so well remember, climbing and thinking, this is great. I'm on Seclusion Hill. And then I had this thought, I'm afraid of heights. This hill was high. And then I looked down and then I looked up and I started to panic. And I thought, all right, I must try and keep going. I've pestered Baba. I've really pestered him. Keep going. Well, I couldn't. I had a full-blown, what you would now call, I suppose, a panic attack. And I can remember Dad saying, come on, Shireen, come on, feeling. And I felt very bad. I felt, oh, this is terrible. I really pestered Baba. And here I am. I can't even climb his hill without making a fuss. But I was too scared to go up, too scared to go down. And in my distress, I sort of twirled and tripped on my feet and landed in a bed of thorns. I don't know what the plant was. I used to say it was cactus. I don't know if cactus grows in India, but it was a thorny plant. And I was screaming. And basically, I made a scene on Baba's hill. And I was crying, and I felt so terrible that I was behaving like this when I had asked Baba. So then I'm sure some people still carried on, but, my parents, and I was carried down the hill screaming with thorns in my body and just feeling miserable. You can imagine I had made such a mess of this, Baba's hill. So I was taken straight to Merazad, and there's a little room just when you go into the front door. I don't know whose room it is. And I was laying down on the bed there, and then I think it was Mani and Goher came with tweezers and just picked all of these needles out of me. And I was sobbing and I felt so terrible. And I had sort of, realized what had happened. And they were so sweet. They couldn't have been sweeter. And Mare Auntie came in. So they were plucking these. I was bright red from the thorns, from the crying. I was completely disheveled. So then I think it was Mare Auntie came into the little room and came to me and said, so Shireen, Baba wants to know how you enjoyed climbing Seclusion Hill. I knew, I was hoping I could just leave. So I tried to sort of compose myself and went into Baba's bedroom, and he was just smiling away and said, oh, Shireen, you went up Seclusion Hill. Did you enjoy it? And, I said, yes, Baba. And I didn't want to say too much, and I don't remember exactly the conversation I had with Baba, but I don't think it came up that he knew what had happened to me. And then I learned later that once we had set off, Baba had asked someone to go with binoculars to watch the progress of all of us on Seclusion Hill. That's possible from Merazad? Yeah. So whoever it was reporting to Baba. So Baba was saying, what's happening? Is Shireen okay? Is she making it up the hill? And they were having to say, oh no, no, she stopped. Oh no, she's screaming. Oh no, she's crying. Oh no, she's landed in a bed of thorns. So Baba knew what had happened, but so sweetly, he didn't mention it, not once. And I was so touched that he didn't ever make me feel bad about that. There are a couple of other stories, but of course I have to talk about Dara Numrat's wedding, which many of you've heard, from them, the best people of all to talk about it. But it was so beautiful. It was just so beautiful. And there was such a sense of awe. And I remember being told that Baba wasn't well, and there was concern about his health, for the wedding. But as you all know from the film, I mean, he came out. He was, beautiful. He was mingling and interacting with people, and you would never know that he was ill. There they are. That must be, I think, is that the wedding or the engagement? And so I was all dolled up, and my mum had dressed me up to the nines. And we were sat on the veranda at Merazad, I think, and I was on a little stool. And I was so happy for Dara. I was so happy to know that I'd have a sister-in-law, that our family would grow. It was just so special. And, of course, it was such a festive occasion. Everyone was there. And I remember feeling, Dara was a little nervous. And I remember feeling, oh, he's a little nervous. But it was so sweet. And, others tell the story better than I can. But Baba... I remember Baba was with everyone. He was laughing when the twins sang "There's a Hole in My Bucket." It was just so great. And, soon after that, we went back to England. And, I was only 11. I didn't fully understand. But I remember when saying goodbye to Baba, being sad. I don't believe that it was struck my mind that we wouldn't see him again. But I remember, of course, just being so sad. And when we did go to say goodbye to him, he hugged me and bowed down, hugged me, garlanded him. And he said to be good, to study hard. He wanted me to study hard and do well in school, not to worry. And again, I said, Baba, when we visit again, can I stay with you at Merazad? And he said, yes, next time you can stay with me at Merazad. So, and everyone else said goodbye. And, I was sad, but I was also very, very, as I say, very excited. Amrit was coming back. That was all very exciting, coming back to England. My mum later told me that when she said goodbye to Baba, Baba asked her if she wanted to talk to him privately. And she said no. And he said, how are you? And she said, Baba, you know everything. You know what I'm thinking. You know how I am. And he said, don't worry, Franny. Everything will be all right by the end of the month. And of course, she had no idea what that meant. So our family left. And I do remember on the plane, of course, I was just sad, but I remember bursting into tears. And I think rather loudly. And my mum was trying to console me and sort of get me to be quiet. And she said, what is it? What is it? And I just had this very sudden feeling that we wouldn't see Baba again. And if there's time, I'll talk about what happened when we heard that he dropped the body when we got to England. But I did want to mention, if there's time, another story. Again, in this short visit with Baba, a few things happened that had such an impact on me. So, like most Eastern girls, my hair was very, very long. I grew it. It was almost to my knees. And when I was 7, Baba had, liked my hair. So because he liked my hair, my mum felt we should never cut it unless Baba's permission was asked. So when we saw Baba, of course, again, I was 7. I wasn't paying too much attention to that kind of thing. My mum did my hair. I was happy to go along with it. But in the interim years, my hair started to bother me. I wanted short hair like my English friends. I was at a school where I was probably one of the few non-English girls. So I really wanted short hair. And I said to my mum, this was maybe when I was 8 or 9, let's cut my hair. And Mum said no. And our dad said no. We have to ask Baba. So, I wrote to Baba and said, Baba, please, may I cut my hair? And he wrote back no. So of course that was it. It was cemented. Well, being a child, I didn't quite, grasp that. So when my dad went to India, in 1968, it must have been, or possibly 67, I'm not sure. Baba was in seclusion, and Baba called our dad to India to discuss Dar and Amrit's wedding. So that could have been 68 or 67. It was 68. And I, not knowing any better, said to my dad, Daddy, please, please, please ask Baba. Please ask Baba if I can cut my hair. Explain to him why it's so difficult. It takes so long to brush. It gets into knots. all of this. So Dad said he'd do it, and he did. He kept his, he was good for his word. So I got a postcard from him. And the first sort of lines on the postcard were, "Good news, Baba says you can cut your hair." So I was elated. And then I read the rest of the card, and it said 7 inches. And for me, that was a trim. That was nothing more than a trim. So I was disappointed. So you'd think I'd have learned my lesson or understood. But when we went to India for Darren Amrit's wedding, I thought, I can ask Baba directly one more time if I could please cut my hair. By that time, I was feeling a little self-conscious. I'd started a new school. Again, I was the only one with this long, long hair. And what I did was I talked to Mera Auntie, because I knew that she would understand being a woman, and also I knew that how much Baba loved her. And, that might be a way to make this request. And Mera, she listened, and I think my mum even spoke to her and said, Mera, it's hard, Shireen, takes so long to get Shireen ready in the morning. So Mera asked Baba, and I waited, with bated breath. And then I got the message from Baba. I think we must have been at my grandparents'. Baba said, yes, you can cut your hair. Now, you'd think I would have been over the moon, but the minute I got that message, my heart sank. I felt, I shouldn't have asked this of Baba. I had some kind of realization. I shouldn't have asked this. I shouldn't have troubled him. He liked my hair. I should be grateful. But I couldn't go back. I couldn't then trouble him again and say I've changed my mind. And Mera had asked on my behalf. So Baba said, you can cut your hair, but do it now. And as soon as it had happened, he wanted us to go to Merazad and to see him. So he gave my mum the instruction to cut my hair approximately shoulder length. So, my hair was in a really big plait, and I can remember she just chopped it off, and the bulk of my hair fell to the ground. And I felt so sad that I had, somehow I just felt sad that I had asked this of Baba. So then Baba called us, and we went in the car to see him at Merazad, and went in to show him my hair. And he was very sweet. He smiled, he complimented it, he said, yes, it looks nice. And then he put his hand under my hair like that, and he said, never any shorter. And so that's what I've done. And he was very sweet about it. And he I was feeling, I suppose, well, I was feeling bad. Excuse me. But he made me feel that it was okay. And he had used when he had said not to cut my hair, he had used the scissors motif, or the scissors, indication. And actually, that was to not cut my hair. But about 30 years ago, my Aunt Money said, Shireen, don't have your hair cut with scissors. Just have your hair cut some other way. So actually, Jay cuts my hair with clippers. So that's the story of my hair. So we said our goodbyes to Baba, went back to England, and then within a matter of, I think, only 2 weeks, we got the news that Baba had dropped his body. And is there anything else, Jay, from actually being with Baba? I don't think so.
Well, you and Amrit.
And yes, I had touched on I had spoken of this last time. But when Darren Amrit, I think it was after they were married, we had all gone to Merazad to see Baba. And Baba called Amrit and me in to see him. And he was in his bedroom, I think, and sitting on the bed with his feet at the side. And yes, I mentioned this before, but he hugged Amrit and me. We were, kneeling in front of him, and he hugged us close together. So we were in his embrace, and our heads were touching. And he said, "You are sisters." And he hugged us for a very, very, very long time. And years later, when I was an adult, Annavaz told me, and I'm sure told Amrit, but she said she was standing outside and saw that, and she said her heart kind of missed a beat, as it were, because she said it was such a long hug, and she felt that Baba was giving us some strength, and that life would not always be easy, and he was giving us some strength for the future. So that was very moving to hear that from Annavaz. So
I'm sorry, but the dance?
Oh, I did. I talked about the dance.
No, not the Tarantella, but the dance that Darnov was with.
Oh no, that I won't talk about that.
But it's kind of enlightening.
No, it's okay. But so we got home and settled into the new life. With Amrit, of course, is now in our family, and of course miss Baba very much. But life was progressing, and I was back at school, and then we got this unbelievable news that Baba had dropped his body. And I remember it so clearly. The call came in the middle of the night or early hours of the morning, and it was Adi Senior, I think, had made the call to our father. And I could hear Dad shouting, "No, no," crying, "Baba's dropped his body." And I was woken out of a sleep. And then I went back to sleep, and I thought this was all a dream. And then the next morning, I got up, went downstairs, and of course knew immediately what had happened. And it was just completely inconceivable, for everyone, obviously, in the world, especially the Mandli and Mera and Mani. And, from our point of view, it was just something that we could not fathom. And I had never before, I don't think, seen our dad cry. And that was very distressing. And I remember Dara talked to me. He was consoling me about it and explaining that, Baba hadn't left us and he would come back. And it was just such a sad time. And then in my mind, I was 11, I thought the world had come to an end. I thought, well, nothing is going to happen now, and I won't go to school and nothing can happen. But then things started to, of course, there was this great urgency. So our dad, flew to India. He got on a plane and flew to India for Baba's entombment. There is the most wonderful story about Adi, our dad, and Delia Delia, and I don't think there's time for this now, if somebody wants to indicate, but I don't think there's time. It's just incredible how Baba arranged all that. Our dad ended up flying to India with Delia Delian, who we loved dearly, but she was the last travel companion you could ever imagine on such a trip. But Baba had put them together. It was very sweet. So I can't remember how long Dad was away for the entombment. And we just, we just tried to carry on with our life. And then, of course, he wrote to us and phoned us. And he came home, breaking up a bit, he came home with a garland that had been placed on Baba's body. And there's a pretty wonderful story about that garland. So he had wanted a garland, and Erich said to him, just grab it.
From the tomb.
From the tomb. It had been on Baba's body. He said, just take it. Don't ask anyone. Don't, just take it. But they were putting garlands on, of course, all the time. So Dad did come home with his garland, and that was wonderful. But then it was, well, what to do with this garland? And it was still fresh, it had just come off Baba's body. And after a while, Mum and Dad thought about it and discussed it. And, well, how do we preserve this? We can't just let this, fade. So many of you, or some of you might know of the famous Botanical Gardens, Kew Gardens in London. And Baba visited Kew. He walked through the gardens very quickly, I believe. And so much happened in the Kew area in terms of Baba contacts and his followers. Delia Delian lived in Kew opposite the gardens. Jay and I were fortunate enough to live in the flat above her for 4 years. So Kew was a very special place. And it is the Royal Botanical Gardens, and it's probably the foremost botanical gardens in the world. So Dad thought, well, if anyone can look after this garland, it's them. So he went along and spoke to somebody and explained everything. He didn't exactly explain who Baba was and is, but he said something and said, I really want to preserve this. And the man he spoke to said, Mr. Rani, I'm really sorry, but we don't take private commissions. This is the Botanical Gardens. We only really do that kind of work on behalf of the royal family. So Dad was disappointed, and he left, said thank you, got up to leave, and as he was opening the door, the man said, Mr. Rani, I feel this garland was placed on the body of someone very special, and I'm going to do it. So he preserved the garland, didn't charge, I don't believe. Then, when the garland was ready, it was brought back to our house, Meranzil, and Dad, who was in the antiques business, had found a lovely frame, but it was dilapidated, so Mum painted it, and then Amrit and Mum, I remember stretching some velvet as a background, and then Mum embroidered the 4 original symbols from Mastery and Servitude around the garland, and they did some beadwork, and so Baba's photo in the tomb, his face is in the middle, and then there's a heart motif, and then his garland, and it's of course preserved in the appropriate kind of glass. So that was such a loving. It felt like a loving gesture from Baba, that he hasn't gone, he hasn't left us. And then another wonderful thing happened when Dad was in India, perhaps when when Baba had called him when he was in seclusion to discuss Dar Amrit's wedding. Dad asked Rano Gailey if she would please paint the Mastery and Servitude emblem for our family. Of course, there's one at Marazad, I believe, and she said yes, and that was very kind of her. So she said she'd paint it, and whenever she would send it, and I think everyone forgot about it, and then I can't remember, there was a significant day, but her painting arrived at our house, from India. On a day where we really needed,
it was the day after you heard the news.
Maybe it was the day after we heard the news. Yes, Jay's saying it was the day after we heard the news that Baba had dropped his body, possibly the day of. This painting just showed up. And again, a reminder from Baba, I haven't left you. And it's such a beautiful painting. And later, Rano told Dad, she said, I almost didn't send that to you. I didn't, even though I told you I would do it for you, I almost wanted to keep it because Baba had come and had looked and had touched each symbol and had talked about the meaning behind the religious symbols. And Rano said he hadn't done that with the other Mastery and Servitude paintings, and that she wanted to hold on to it, but she'd made a promise, and so she sent it. And again, it arrived with this amazing timing of Baba letting us know that he hadn't gone. And obviously life was just extraordinarily different. I mean, that is such an understatement, after Baba dropped his body. But then what happened for us, for our family, again, our family sort of feeling the loss, was that our parents decided to hold monthly meetings, once a month, and I think they lasted for about 2 years after Baba dropped his body. And that was how we got to know the younger, as Delia Jillian puts it in her book, I love it, how she writes it, the vanguard, I think she puts, of the Baba lovers, the young ones who had come to Baba just before he dropped his body, just around that time. This was 1969. So suddenly we were just, all these people would flock to our house. We met, many of our close friends, future close friends in that way. And of course, Delia, Dillian, and the kind of older group were there too and were coming to these meetings. And I think, it helped our parents with their sorrow of missing Baba so much to have these meetings and to do something. And Jay has something to say, yes?
I just wanted to suggest that you might want to end by telling the 2 jokes.
Oh, if there's time, I will, yeah. So that was something that I think was very meaningful. I really hadn't thought about that until fairly recently, but having those Baba meetings was very meaningful for our family and very helpful. And also then ensued, for me personally, just this wonderful communication with my aunts, and especially Mera and Mani. Just lots of letter writing. And, just as my parents, and I hadn't really said this, but, when Baba was in his body, every little thing, but we were in constant communication. Everything, big or small, what Baba was consulted, Baba was asked for advice. As only he could, he managed to do this. He had so many of his family members he cared about, not to mention all of his followers throughout the world, but he gave such attention and, made you feel he never forgot you. He was always there. So that was my life growing up until he dropped his body, back and forth, letters, telegrams. And then when he dropped his body, that for me, then it continued with especially the two beloved aunts, who then went on to completely organize my wedding to Jay. I mean, it's remarkable what they did. So that was just such a blessing. And that kept up, that correspondence, that level of contact and closeness, of course, continued until they went to Baba. If there's time, I thought I would talk about my school, and I don't know because I can't see anyone.
It's been more than 40 minutes.
I'm going to just keep going until you tell me to stop. So
you can go on for the next 5 minutes, Shireen. I think we have 5 minutes. Please tcontinue.
Okay,
you
thanks.
should tell the joke.
No, I'll tell the school. So Jay wants me to tell the jokes, but the jokes I told Baba, I can tell them another time or anyway. But this was kind of a wonderful Baba, I think Baba story. So in England, one starts school, senior school, I think the same in India must be, at the age of 11. So, and I had mentioned that we could only go for 3 weeks for Dara Namrit's wedding because my school, which I had just started, in September of '68, they wouldn't allow me any extra time. So when it came time to apply to all the senior schools, and I don't exactly remember the sequence of how this all began, but Baba was consulted. And in a nutshell, it became very clear that Baba wanted me to go to the same school that Kitty Davy, who of course he was so, Kitty Davy, and our family were very close to her too. He wanted me to go to the same school she went to, which was a school called St. Paul's Girls' School, and it's very famous in England still. It is a public, i.e. private school, so there was a question of fees because certainly there wasn't any money. But once that had been said, once Baba had said he would like me to go to that school, of course, Mum and Dad, that's what they wanted me to do. Well, the problem was it was the hardest school to get into in England, virtually. It's highly academic, has a hugely stellar reputation to this day. And it was the kind of school that now, parents would be putting their children's names down when they were babies. So poor mum, was in a bit of a panic because I was reasonably intelligent and did reasonably well at school. And I actually went to the preparatory school of St. Paul's, but that did not help you get in to the senior one. And she wrote, I suppose, to Mera or Mani and said, Shireen won't get into this school. This is a school for very, very, very hardworking, bright students, and I wasn't quite in that league. So she was very anxious about it. And it so happened that poor mum, my dad went to India to see Baba about Dara Namrit's wedding in the middle of all of my exams because I applied to many other schools too in case I didn't get into St. Paul's. But the pressure was really on for mum, and a lot of her friends or, even other parents of my friends were saying, no, we're not going to have our children apply. This school is too hard to get into. And my teacher said, Mrs. Irani, I mean, yes, Shireen's bright enough, but it takes a certain kind of student to get into St. Paul's. You get the picture. So Mum was, well, there's no way she's going to get in, but I have to do my best. But then, of course, my dad left for India, so Mum didn't even have his support or help. And I think in the middle of it all, she might have broken her wrist. It was just everything went wrong. So Mum was panicking. Dad was very sort of sanguine. He wasn't worried about it. He was on his way to see Baba in India. But Dad and Darius and my father was extremely intuitive. The only other person I've met, obviously, apart from Baba, but I mean, I've met, like that was our Aunt Money. So Dad was very, very intuitive. So before he went to India, maybe even when we were seeing him off at the airport, he said, Shireen, you have these exams, do your best, study hard. And he said, oh, by the way, when you have your St. Paul's interview, the head mistress, actually she was called the High Mistress, that's the kind of school it was, the High Mistress lived in India, and she was somehow connected to Mountbatten's group during the transfer of independence to India. So Dad said, look, she's going to know you're Indian. Make sure you know who the Prime Minister of India is. So he said, who's the Prime Minister of India? And I said, Mrs. Gandhi. I knew that. He said, yes, remember that. And then he left. And then left my mum to deal with, all of the exams. And I don't know that I was taking it all as seriously as I should have been. So I sat a few other exams. Then came the St. Paul's exam. And there isn't time to describe the St. Paul's building, but I mean, it was just sort of quintessential, oak paneling and marble floors. I mean, this grand hall of learning, and very intimidating. So Mum took me to sit the exam, and I was doing the exam, and in the middle of it, I started to feel really ill. And I actually left the exam. I didn't finish it. And I walked out, and there's my poor mum sitting there, sees me walking out early, head in her hands. And, oh, Baba, what's the matter? I said, I feel very ill. So at that point, I think my poor mother gave up. She was like, okay, Baba, we've done everything we can. I've tried. She sat the exam. Well, it turned out that I had German measles. So I was very sick. I had a temperature. I could not continue. So, Mum called my teacher. The teacher said, oh, no, forget it. There's no way Shireen can get in. I mean, she won't even be called for the interview. She left the exam. I mean, it doesn't work like that. So, I had got into some other schools, so that was okay. So, meanwhile, all of this is going back and forth to my father, and he's writing postcards or letters to Mum and postcards to me. Don't worry, Baba says not to worry. Baba says not to worry. With Shireen luck, Baba says not to worry. So, unbelievably, sometime after the written exam, I was called to give an interview with the High Mistress. So, of course, again, how is this possible? Why am I even being called? I obviously failed the exam. Excuse me. Why would I be called for interview? So everyone was very excited. The teacher saying, well, what's going on? Mum told the other parents, and they were pretty upset, I think, because how is it possible that this girl even has a chance now? So I went along for the interview, and I was so nervous. This building was so imposing. I can remember knocking on the High Mistress's study door. It was this heavy, heavy oak door. I had to, push it to get in, and she is sitting there behind her big desk, and I was just terrified. She actually went on to become a dame. I mean, she was a very imposing woman, and she was well known even at that time. And I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to pass this. So that almost gave me freedom to not be too worried. So she asked me some questions. She interviewed me. I was very conscious of the fact that I was not coming across in any way, shape, or form as an impressive candidate for this school. And she asked me a definition of a word, and I remember I got that wrong. And so then, she said, okay, thanks. Bye. I knew enough to know that I had not done well. And it was like with my dad with Kew Gardens. So I got up. I think I had to curtsy. We had to curtsy to her in school, certainly. And I was leaving and about to open the door. And then she said, Miss Irani, you're from your family from India, aren't you? And I said, yes. She said, can you tell me who the Prime Minister of India is? And I said, yes, Mrs. Indira Gandhi is the one thing I knew. Yes, I got one thing right. Well, you know the end. I got into that school, and it was deemed a minor miracle. So I got into the school, and the only reason I got in was because Baba, for his reasons, wanted me to be there. And I've often thought, why did he want me to go there? And I really feel, I don't know, but I feel the reason is it made Kitty so happy. And Baba loved Kitty so much. I felt that this was for Kitty, She was really delighted that I got in. She would ask me about St. Paul's and our correspondence, and when I'd see her, and we were very close, and I felt that's why this happened. And I had a very great experience. Gopal, there's one other little coda to this story, but should we quit now? Okay, I'll keep going.
Yes.
Should I stop? There's one more bit, or should I stop now?
You can wind up in 1 minute, Shireen, if possible. I think we are way over time, but
okay,
just 1 minute.
I don't think I can do it in 1 minute, so another time. Another lovely part of this story about the school where Baba enabled me to go to this school, but I can't tell it in 1 minute. So another time, maybe.
All right. Thank you so much, Shireen. I think it was wonderful details, very detailed account of your stories.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again. Early in Santa Fe, we know that and appreciate you and Jay getting up early to, make sure that we are part of your experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Avatar Meher Baba
Ki Jai.
Very good.
Can you hear us?
Hi,
Well
Jay.
done.
Hey.
I'm rich.
Jai Baba.
You should have been doing it. Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Fantastic. Jai Baba.
జై బాబా. సంక్షిప్తంగా షిరీన్ మనతో పంచుకున్నవి క్లుప్తంగా చూద్దామండి. అయితే మనం ముందులో చెప్పుకున్నట్టు 1968వ సంవత్సరంలో దారా అమృత వివాహానికి వచ్చినప్పుడు ఆ సందర్భంలో జరిగిన బాబాతో జరిగిన సన్నివేశాల గురించి చెప్పారండి. ఎన్నో కథలు వర్ణించారు. సమయ అభావం వల్ల అన్నిటినీ వివరంగా మనకు చెప్పుకోవడానికి అవకాశం లేదు. అయితే మొట్టమొదటిగా బాబా అనారోగ్యం, బాబా యొక్క ఆరోగ్య పరిస్థితి ఆ సమయంలో మనకు తెలుసు. 1968వ సంవత్సరంలో చివరి రోజుల్లో ఇది. అయితే బాబా ఎప్పుడు కూడా ఈ చిన్నారిగా అప్పటికి షిరీన్ కి 11 సంవత్సరాల వయసు, ఆ వయసులో ఉన్న షిరీన్ కి ఎప్పుడు ఆహ్లాదంగా, ఉత్సాహంగా, నవ్వుతూ, సంతోషంగా కనిపించేవారు. సో తనకి ఎప్పుడు కూడా బాబా యొక్క ఆరోగ్యం గురించి అంత ఆ సమయంలో తెలియలేదు. అయితే తన యొక్క బాబా షిరీన్ 7 సంవత్సరాల వయసులో వచ్చినప్పుడు బాబాని ఆనందింపపరచడానికి కొన్ని విషయాలు నేర్చుకోవాలని వెనక్కి వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత అనుకున్నారు. అందులో ముఖ్యంగా ఇలా జోక్స్, అలాగే బాలే డాన్స్, ఈ వివరాలన్నీ మనతో చెప్పారండి. డేవ్ అలెన్ చెప్పిన జోక్స్ కి బాబాకి ఎంతో నచ్చావంట. ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఆయన ఈ యాంటీ రిలీజియస్ మతానికి వ్యతిరేకంగా దానికి అవహేళన చేస్తూ ఆ రకంగా ఉన్నప్పటికీ బాబా దాన్ని విన్నారు, దాన్ని ఎంతో సంతోషించారు ఆ పాటల గురించి. దీనికి డాన్స్ రాకపోయినా ఆ బాబా మెహరా ప్రోత్సాహంతో బాబా రూమ్ లో చుట్టూ చేసిన డాన్స్ కి బాబా ఎంతో ఆనందించారు. తన యొక్క ప్రయత్నాన్ని బాబా ఎంతో మెచ్చుకున్నారు అని షిరీన్ ఇక్కడ మనకి చెప్పడం జరిగిందండి. అలాగే ఈ వివాహ సందడి మధ్యలో ఇవన్నీ జరిగిన బాబా ఏ రకంగా వారితో ఆనుకున్నారు, వీరన్నిటి గురించి చెప్పడం జరిగింది. మనతోటి ఒక సందర్భంలో చెప్పిన విషయం, ముఖ్యమైన విషయం, ఇది ముందు సహవాస్ లో చెప్పడం జరిగింది. మళ్ళీ ఇంకొకసారి చెప్పారు. ఈ ముఖ్యమైన విషయం ఏంటి అంటే, బాబా తనతో ఆడుకుంటూ ఉన్నప్పుడు తన రూమ్ లో ఒక సందర్భంలో సీరియస్ గా ఉండి గంభీరంగా ఈ రకంగా షిరీన్ ని ప్రశ్నించారు. నువ్వు నా గురించి చేయవలసిన ముఖ్యమైన విషయం ఏంటో నీకు తెలుసా అని అడిగారంట బాబా. తనకి ఆ సమయంలో 11 ఏళ్ళు వయసు చిన్నారిగా ఆలోచించి బాబా నిన్ను ప్రేమించడం, నువ్వు చెప్పినట్టుగా నీకు విధేయులుగా ఉండడం అనేని 2 విషయాలు షిరీన్ చెప్పడం జరిగింది. బాబా దానికి ఆనందిస్తూ నవ్వుతూ చెప్తూ ఇలా అన్నారంట, కాదు, ఇది కాదు, నేను నీ నుంచి ఆశించేది నువ్వు ఎప్పుడూ సంతోషంగా ఉండాలి, ఈ యొక్క విషయం యొక్క ప్రభావం దాన్ని ఎంతో ఆకట్టుకుంది. ఆ విషయం ఇప్పటికీ మర్చిపోలేనంటూ షిరీన్ మనతో పంచుకోవడం జరిగిందండి. అలాగే బాబా మెహరాజాద్ లో ఉన్న పింపల్గాం సెక్లూజన్ హిల్, ఆ కొండపైకి వెళ్ళాలనే ఆతృత ఉండేది షిరీన్ కి. ఆ పర్మిషన్ ఎలాగోలాగ మెహరాజ్ ద్వారా అడిగి ఆ పర్మిషన్ తీసుకోవడం జరిగింది. అయితే నేను వెళ్ళినప్పటికీ ఆ ఎత్తు అంటే భయం షిరీన్ కి. ఆ ఎత్తు పైకి ఎక్కుకుంటా అందరూ వెళ్ళారు. వివాహం తర్వాత జరిగిన సందర్భం చెప్తున్నారండి. అయితే కొంత దూరం వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత షిరీన్ కి అక్కడ కళ్ళు తిరగడం, ఏదో రకమైన ఇబ్బంది కలగడం, అలాగే అందులో కళ్ళు తిరిగి పడిపోవడం, ఒక ముళ్ళ కంప వైపు పడిపోవడం, శరీరం నిండా ముళ్ళు గుచ్చుకోవడం, ఇవన్నీ జరిగాయి. మొత్తానికి ఏడ్చుకుంటా తను అక్కడ ఉన్న వాళ్ళందరూ కూడా ప్రభావితులయ్యారు. చిన్నారిని తీసుకొచ్చి మెహరాజాద్ లో ఒక రూమ్ లో పడుకోబెట్టి అక్కడ ఈ ముళ్ళనన్ని సపర్యలు చేయడం జరిగింది. అయితే తర్వాత తెలిసిందంట, బాబా ఈ యొక్క గ్రూప్ కొండ ఎక్కి వెళ్తుంటే ఎవరికో చెప్పారంట, బైనాక్యులర్స్ తో చూడండి దుర్గా, ఈ గ్రూప్ అంతా సరిగ్గా వెళ్తున్నారా లేదా, ఎవరైనా ఏమైనా అనారోగ్యానికి కానీ ఇటువంటి విషయాలు ఏమైనా జరుగుతున్నాయా అన్ని బాబాయే స్వయంగా చూస్తూ చెప్పమని బాబా యొక్క నిర్దేశం ప్రకారం కూడా ఇవన్నీ జరిగాయంట. అయితే వచ్చిన తర్వాత బాబా తను చూసిన తర్వాత బాబా కూడా నవ్వుతూనే తన్ని ఎంతో ప్రేమతోని అక్కడ స్వీకరించాడు. అలాగే తర్వాత ఈ వివాహ సందడి ఇవన్నీ జరిగిన తర్వాత కూడా చాలా విషయాలు చెప్పారండి. తన యొక్క ముఖ్యమైన విషయం మనం గమనించవలసింది ఏంటి అంటే, బాబా తన యొక్క ప్రేమికులు నుంచి వాళ్ళకి సంబంధించిన చిన్న విషయాల గురించి కూడా పట్టించుకుంటారు అనే విషయాన్ని మనకి ఈ యొక్క ధార గురించి తెలుస్తుంది. వీరు చిన్న పిల్లగా ఆ కేసుల ఆ జుట్టు యొక్క లెంత్ దగ్గర నుంచి దీని యొక్క స్కూల్ అడ్మిషన్, వివాహం, తర్వాత కాలక్రమంగా వారి వివాహం కూడా మెహరాజాద్ లో జరిగేలాగా బాబా వారికి పర్మిషన్ ఇవ్వడం జరిగింది. అలాగే అమృత్ మరియు షిరీన్ వారిద్దరిని ఆ వివాహం తర్వాత బాబా చాలా సమయం పాటు ఆలింగనం ఇవ్వడం, అది అర్ణవాస్ చూసి వీడికి చెప్పడం, అది ఎంతో హృదయాన్ని ద్రవింపజేసే విధంగా జరిగిందని చెప్పడం, ఇది కూడా షిరీన్ చెప్పడం జరిగిందండి. కాలక్రమంగా ఈ వివాహం తర్వాత వీరు మళ్ళీ ఇంగ్లాండ్ వెళ్ళిపోవడం, అలాగే జనవరి మాసంలో చివరిలో బాబా యొక్క శరీరం చాలించారు అనే స్వార్థ వారికి తెలియడం, అది డీలియాతో కలిసి ప్రయాణం చేసి ఏదో రకంగా బాబా యొక్క ఆఖరి దర్శనం రావడం, అలాగే బాబా శరీరంపై ఉన్న ఒక హారాన్ని ఒక స్మారకంగా వెనక్కి తీసుకువెళ్ళడం కుటుంబ సభ్యుల్లో. బొటానికల్ గార్డెన్స్, లండన్ లో ఉన్న ప్రసిద్ధి గల బొటానికల్ గార్డెన్స్ లో దాన్ని పరిరక్షణగా హారాన్ని తయారు చేయడం, ఇవన్నీ కూడా జరిగాయి. అయితే బాబా వారితోనే ఎల్లప్పుడూ ఉన్నారనే దాన్ని ఒక నిర్దేశంగా ఏం జరిగిందంటే, రానో గాలిని వారు కోలారంట వీరి కుటుంబం అంతా కూడా, ఆది మరియు వీరి కుటుంబం. మాస్టరీ ఇన్ సర్విట్యూడ్, ఆ ఎంబ్లం యొక్క పెయింటింగ్ మా కుటుంబానికి ఒకటి చేయగలరా అని అడిగితే అది రానోగాలి చేసి దాన్ని పంపించడం, ఆ షిప్మెంట్ బాబా శరీరం చాలించారు అనే వార్త వీరికి అందిన మరుసటి రోజే వీరికి చేరడం అనేది, బాబా మాతో పాటే ఉన్నారు అనేది ఒక నిర్దేశం కింద వీరు చెప్తున్నారండి. అలాగే ఒక విషయం చెప్పారు, ఏదైతే సెయింట్ పాల్ స్కూల్ హయ్యర్ స్కూల్ షిరీన్ స్కూలింగ్ గురించి చెప్తూ, సెయింట్ పాల్ స్కూల్ ఆ లండన్ లో ఉన్న స్కూల్ చాలా గొప్ప స్కూల్, అడ్మిషన్ చాలా కష్టం బాబా, కానీ షిరీన్ ఈ స్కూల్లోనే చదవాలనే నిర్దేశం, బాబా యొక్క నిర్దేశం. ఇదే స్కూల్లో బాబా మండలిలో సభ్యులైన పాశ్చాత్య సభ్యురాలు కిట్టి డేవి అక్కడే చదువుకున్నారు. బాబా ఈ యొక్క నిర్దేశం ప్రకారం చేయడం గురించి ఎన్నో కష్టాలు ఎదుర్కోవాల్సి వచ్చింది. ఎందుకంటే ఆ ఎగ్జామ్ లో తను సరిగ్గా రాయలేకపోయారు అనారోగ్యం వల్ల. అలాగే ఆ హెడ్ మిస్ట్రెస్ కూడా చాలా స్ట్రిక్ట్. మొత్తానికి బాబా యొక్క సహాయంతో ఇందులో అడ్మిషన్ కలగడం, విన్న తర్వాత కిట్టి డేవి ఎంతో ఆనందించడం, బాబా తన గురించే ఇది ఇలా సాధ్యం చేయించారు అనే విషయం షిరీన్ మనకు గుర్తు చేస్తున్నారండి. అయితే బాబా శరీరం చాలించిన తర్వాత ఇంగ్లాండ్ లో వీరి గృహంలోనే బాబా ప్రార్థన కార్యక్రమాలు జరగడం, తద్వారా ఎంతో మంది ప్రేమికులు వాళ్ళ ఇంటికి రావడం, అలాగే బాబా యొక్క ప్రేమని వారందరితో పంచుకోవడం జరిగింది. ఈ యొక్క వివరాలు షిరీన్ చాలా వివరంగా మనతో పంచుకున్నారండి. మరి యొక్క అవకాశం ఇంకొన్ని విషయాల గురించి మనం కలుసుకుందామని బాబాని ప్రేరణ. అవతార్ మెహర్ బాబా కి జై. ఓవర్ టు యూ బ్రదర్ సంతోష్.
Jai Baba. Now we will have Beloved Baba's film show, Meher Baba's Metal Beach Sahavas in 1958 Part 2. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
O Parvatigar, the preserver and protector of all. You are without beginning and without end, non-dual, beyond comparison, and none can measure you. You are without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. You are unlimited and unfathomable, beyond imagination and conception, eternal and imperishable. You are indivisible, and none can see you but with eyes divine. You always were, you always are, and you always will be. You are everywhere, you are in everything, and you are also beyond everywhere and beyond everything. You are in the firmament and in the depths. You are manifest and unmanifest, on all planes and beyond all planes. You are in the three worlds and also beyond the three worlds. You are imperceptible and independent. You are the Creator, the Lord of Lords, the knower of all minds and hearts. You are omnipotent and omnipresent. You are knowledge infinite, power infinite, and bliss infinite. You are the ocean of knowledge, all-knowing, infinitely knowing, the knower of the past, the present, and the future, and you are knowledge itself. You are all-merciful and eternally benevolent. You are the soul of souls, the one with infinite attributes. You are the Trinity of truth, knowledge, and bliss. You are the source of truth, the ocean of love. You are the Ancient One, the highest of the high. You are Prabhu and Parameshwar. You are the Beyond God and the Beyond God also. You are Parabrahma, Allah, Ilahi, Yastan, Ahura Mazda, and God the Beloved. You are named Isa, the only one worthy of worship. We repent, O God, most merciful, for all our sins, for every thought that was false or unjust or unclean, for every word spoken that ought not to have been spoken, for every deed done that ought not to have been done. We repent for every deed and word and thought inspired by selfishness, and for every deed and word and thought inspired by hatred. We repent most specially for every lustful thought and every lustful action, for every lie, for all hypocrisy, for every promise given but not fulfilled, and for all slander and backbiting. Most specially also we repent for every action that has brought ruin to others, for every word and deed that has given others pain, and for every wish that pain should befall others. In your unbounded mercy, we ask you to forgive us, O God, for all these sins committed by us, and to forgive us for our constant failures to think and speak and act according to your will. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and more and more, and still yet more, till we become worthy of union with you, and help us all to hold fast to Baba's daman till the very end. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. नाम जपनी हमारा ना खुदा